Iconic moments in games are some of our most fondly remembered moments, but somehow even the most insignificant things, such as a title drop, can become one of these memories. The Assassin's Creed franchise is one such series that has made many remarkable and noteworthy title drops, and today we're going to rank them. If you enjoy this video, please subscribe with notifications on for more content like this, and hit that like button. It really helps out a small channel like mine. And before anyone asks, yes, I am lame enough to talk this in depth about title drops. But just remember, you also clicked on this video too. Alright, let's get into it. So the pirate game does a fantastic job at story arcs and character development. So this isn't a criticism of the game before you go below and type your little comment about how much of a Black Flag hater I am. This can be said for every entry on this list. However, let's discuss why I think Black Flag's title drop just doesn't hit like some of the others in the series. You have just come out of your first modern day section, which are all pretty terrible in most games after EC3, so you're already on a downer from that. And then with no emotional build up or anything epic, you were just thrust back into the West Indies with a nice shot looking over Havana. It's beautiful, but it didn't do any of the legwork to make me feel anything. Looking cool is not the only prerequisite of an epic title drop. While being one of the best games in the series, it didn't do anything to innovate on the title drop of its predecessor. It is very similar to AC2, which we will talk about further up the list. So without going over the same points, let's just say Brotherhood's title drop is cool, but we had already seen something very similar, and that's why it's placed at number 11. Now, while quite a cool title drop, it's not actually technically in the game. It plays before you get into the main menu, but once you start the game, it never says the title of the game. It's also just the trailer for the game, but it is a trailer that perfectly shows the atmosphere and feeling of the game. It shows Altair staking out a situation and then striking from the crowd, then shows him using the monks to escape his pursuers. It is entertaining while being very accurate to the actual game. I was going to put this in last place, but because it does so many things right that Black Flag didn't and isn't like anything else in the series, I had to bump it up a bit. Syndicate's title drop is decent, but again, just doesn't quite build the foundations enough to elicit a strong emotional reaction of any kind. You've just got done blowing up labs and derailing trains, and you have a somewhat jokey conversation with George, something this game does a lot. Once George disregards their plea to liberate London, the Fry twins decide to go to London by jumping on a passing train. As it disappears into the distance, the title drops, which as I said, is decent. I do like that it looks out into the distance, London on the horizon. Unfortunately, you are then shown another terrible modern day section which is just cutscenes in this game, so even if there was some emotional weight here, it would have all just been lost. Don't get me wrong, I am a huge lover of the modern day storyline when done right. It just isn't in this game, and I think it would be better off ignoring it altogether if they aren't going to make any significant effort with it. One thing Rogue definitely got right is its title drop. Everything on the list from now on I would consider genuinely great title drops, even if not flawless. Shay has just acquired the Morrigan, and when taking this idiot back to his ship, you encounter enemies and have to get into a naval battle with them. Once they are defeated and you have returned this whingy muppet back to his ship, Liam asks the new Captain Shay for a course, and Shay says to report back to the Mentor. As it zooms out over the beautiful oceanscape, the title drops with an excellent score playing in the background. Praise ends here, however, as you are thrown into yet another terrible modern day section. I think this can be done well, but as I have said repetitively, the modern day is just garbage in most games after 3, so it just brings the whole experience down after a great sequence. Speaking of AC3, here it is. Starting off playing as Haytham is one of the best bait and switches ever pulled in gaming history. Although it has its flaws, climbing up the mast of the ship Haytham is travelling on to Boston is not one of them. Haytham has been on a ship for a long time and endured many things, including attempts on his life and having to sail directly into a storm. After all this, Haytham finally arrives in Boston. Sitting in his quarters, Haytham hears the seagulls indicating they must be near land. The ship is in thick fog, but the captain assures him that they are near land and instructs Haytham to climb into the crow's nest to see for himself. Once Haytham reaches the top, we are greeted by a magnificent view out over the American colony, and the absolutely brilliant soundtrack plays as the title drops. It carries weight after how hard this journey was and what it means that he has finally arrived. A truly great title drop. This one is a bit confusing to explain. Although coming back into Egypt from a modern day segment, the hard work was done before we stepped out of the Animus. It also helps that the modern day segment was short here. After seeing the terrible things that Bayek has had to endure, you are finally leaving Siwa to be set free on the open world of Egypt. Somehow the emotions stay with you even with the modern day interruption. Maybe it has to do with Layla's enthusiasm for what she is doing, I'm not sure. The game is also beautiful and the title drop looks stunning over the backdrop of Egypt. What makes this title drop great, however, is what it does afterwards. Following Sinu from the sky, looking down on the desert as he lands on Bayek's arm, and we resume control over our protagonist. The wonderful main theme from Origins also induces feelings of wonder, sadness, and an urge for revenge. I don't usually compliment Valhalla a lot in these videos, but here we are. Leaving Norway is a big decision for Sigurd and Eivor, defying their father and sailing to England for a brighter future. As they sail away from their home, the words of Sigurd and Eivor echo out, words of their goal to conquer England. Dag rounds it out with a shout of, "To England or Valhalla!" The camera zooms out as the gorgeous backdrop of Norway comes more into frame and the title drops. Valhalla's soundtrack rings out as well, and it just has a lot of feelings in it. It's actually a long time from the game start until the title drop, and much has happened that makes this have more feeling. We are then once again greeted by a modern day segment, but holy fuckaroo, thank the gods, the modern day actually has substance and means something in this game, and doesn't take away from the title drop or the significance of what's just happened within the Animus. In fact, it adds to it, as we get our first slice of the story of the modern day and the importance of their mission within the Animus. While hardly being an Assassin's Creed game in anything other than name, there is still a lot to love about Odyssey. The title drop for Odyssey is fantastic. It is much like a few others on this list, such as Syndicate, Origins, and Valhalla, as you leave your original home and embark on a journey to discover the rest of the world. What's done better here than the others is the feelings it is implanted in you before it does drop. Although Odyssey does often go for a silly tone, when it actually tries, it can be a pretty compelling story. You finally gain passage on a ship to leave Kefalonia. As you do, Cassandra, yes, she's canon, explains to Barnabas why she must go to Megaris, to collect the head of the Wolf of Sparta. Barnabas reveals the wolf's name, triggering a memory to flood back into Cassandra's head. The wolf is her father. We then see an incredibly heartbreaking cutscene where she tries to save her brother from a barbaric killing. The oracles had spoken, and he must be dropped from the mountain. While trying to save her brother, she kills the man performing the act. Her brother falls too. She is then thrown from the mountain herself by her own father after other members insist that she must. Cassandra's mother's wailing in the background. The terrible feelings this brings about are just horrible. It makes you feel for Cassandra and how she has come so far on her own. As she sails away from her home, you feel a sense of pain and eagerness to find her father and get answers. Once again, with Ubisoft's beautiful worlds in the background as the title drops, and it's just fantastic. Now, Unity as a game I think could have done much more with its setting, but setting is something it uses very well for its title drop. After getting tossed behind bars within the Bastille, Arno meets an assassin named Balak. One day the revolution of Paris boils over and the Bastille is being stormed. Arno seizes this opportunity to flee the prison. After running from and fighting many guards, doing some cool parkour, we finally arrive at the top of the Bastille. Balak tells Arno to jump. He refuses, telling Balak it's suicide. Balak hands his father's pocket watch back to him, asking him to come find the assassins if he is, and I quote, "can pluck your head out of your own ass." The captions are wrong here, by the way. I don't know why. Balak then leaps off himself. With the guards finally catching up to Arno, he has no choice but to follow. After a quick contemplation, he leaps from the building. The iconic Assassin's Eagle sound plays, and the camera sweeps away from Arno, moving swiftly over the revolutionary Paris below. The streets filled with protesters, buildings on fire, and Notre Dame in the background. It gives us the perfect look into the setting of this game, and the craziness of the period in French history. One of the best soundtracks in the series swells and the logo glitches into view. Absolutely perfect. And guess what? No modern day to interrupt it anywhere. Although most of this title drop is actually in a trailer as well, this one's actually in the game, unlike AC1, and is arguably one of the best cutscenes or trailers ever made. The cutscene shows Ezio traveling the world, making his way to Masyaf Castle, his goal to find Altair's library. A letter from Ezio to his sister Claudia is used as a voiceover, perfectly setting up the story and what Ezio is doing. As he finally reaches Masyaf, he is attacked. While taking out many soldiers, he sees the ghost of Altair leading him to his goal. However, Ezio is eventually captured, being forced out onto where the assassins once performed leaps of faith. Ezio once again sees Altair, showing him the way. This perfectly sets up the plot for the game, as we are constantly following Altair to get the keys for the library. Another perfect soundtrack fills out the background, but then just silence as a noose is placed around his neck, until the assassin eagle sound is heard and Ezio turns the tides on his captors and escapes elegantly in classic Ezio style. One superhero walks towards the camera later and the screen goes black as the Revelations title glitches in, and from there we follow Altair, and it's just all so poetic and beautiful. I love it. The first proper title drop in the series, and an unbelievably memorable one. When I think of title drops, as you do, I think of this one. After fighting a bunch of Vieri's men, we follow our brother to a doctor. He lends us some money to get patched up, and then we race him to the top of the tower. It's not any of this, however, that makes it great. It's the conversation he has with his brother. It's the calm before the storm. This shows the love the brothers have not only for each other, but the city in which they live. The lives that they live, they enjoy to the fullest, and I can't fault them for that. I will just let this play, as it speaks for itself.
It is a good life we lead, brother.
At best, may it never change.
And may it never change us.
This also shows the respect they have for their privileges and understanding that not everyone is as lucky, vowing to never let it change them. As we know, it all goes downhill from here, so when replaying this game, it has even more value. The now iconic Ezio's family song plays out in the background as the camera glitches away from the brothers, and finally, the title drops with Florence as the perfect backdrop. I understand this is a lot of nostalgia talking, but this is a truly great title drop that has everything: emotional weight, especially on a replay, atmosphere, perfect sound design, and the beauty and epicness that must be checked off for every great title drop. Yep, somehow I just made a ranking for title drops, and if you made it this far, you must have liked it, so I suppose we're weird. With that in mind, help a weirdo out and smack that like button and subscribe with notifications on. Click one of the other videos on screen to check out more of my content. Thank you to the patrons, and thanks everyone else for watching. With that, I'm done here. Sticks out.